Jules, this is the Global Digest think tank group.
Mhm.
You are our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm currently studying in like I'm linked to the University of Paris Nanterre, so I'm living in Paris, and my so I do my PhD there, and I teach also in some other universities because they all have together. What can I tell you? I'm finishing right now my second year as a PhD, as a contractual PhD. In fact, I have a 3-year contract. So the next year should be my final year, and I try to I will succeed to finish it in 3 years. It's a bit the I'm already in the rush. I might say, and my like I would say my topic is the Korean War, as I told you. It's like, so I'm working on so it's partly history, partly law, because obviously the Korean War, it's already an old topic, like it happens
Right.
years ago, but like it's still from United Nations, an organization that still exists. Hopefully, I wanted to write as fast as I could to see how it is. And so with the war, I would say it's quite easy, because you can say, okay, I'm gonna. So my first part is about all the documents, all the debates that happened in United Nations before the war started. So it was quite, I mean, for me, easy to cut my archives, my materials, and say, okay, so what happened in United Nations, including the commissions in Seoul, and like the United Commission, the UNTOC Commission. So all of this before the war. So in this, I think I'm currently an expert of this, because I spent my maybe my 7 last months working on everything that I could find on the pre-war period. And so right now I'm about to finish this part, and after I'm gonna, I would say, work about what happened in United Nations during the war in itself. Like, and so at that moment, I think, yeah, I mean, so this is the biggest part, obviously. So, um, so yeah, and I would say maybe it's strange, but it's you're gonna understand me if I tell this story. In fact, I got interested because when I learned about some Korean backgrounds, even when I was meeting with Koreans in China, or even here in Paris, like the idea that this country could be cut, uh, it somehow touched me. We all feel some feelings toward our country, and this story, like, I think I wanted to find out, because in some cases, France could have been in the same situation, because we at the end of World War II, there were some communists who resist, there was some nationalists, I would say, like conservatives, or, well, Le Général de Gaulle, people who fight. But by luck, they finally met. They finally made a team and a nation together. Like, maybe our communists were not so radical. I don't know. Or maybe the Soviets were not involved. I don't know why, but it found out that at the end there was only one France. And when I said, like, okay, Korea was in a situation not so far, and the situation changed so dramatically. It's my first, because we are human beings. It starts with emotion, like, I guess, at least for French people.
To see about
Mhm.
the Korean War. So,
Yeah.
in your finding, uh, how's the background of Korea before the war?
And I think, as far as we can see from UN documents, especially the NTOC Commission, who interview all the important politician figures in South Korea as it could, you can see that, yeah, there is conflict, there is strong divisions, because I think, the touching part is that everybody had dreams about the end of Japanese rule. Everybody had dreams about the end of colonization and the independence of the country. And I think when it comes true, it finally comes true. All those people who were dreaming together, they might encounter a situation where, okay, finally, maybe their dreams doesn't match, and maybe they doesn't match at all. They have different plans, different ambitions, different. So there is, I think, divisions. There was divisions before the war in the Korean conflict, but I think those division has been like highly dramatized by the occupation. So I would not say that the great powers, the occupying powers, were the only responsible for this situation. But I think it's like, I mean, in every country there is a right and a left. So why a right and a left finish in a north state and a south state? So what is striking also, because my director, he is like more, I would say, a pure historian, like in his way. He's more less historian in law, and he asked me many questions that I should find out at the beginning. And what catch my attention is that at that moment, the general population of Korea was very young, and we know that those situations brings a lot of advantages, but they also can be a danger, because young people, they are more influenceable, they are more likely to be violent. Like radical groups, they are rarely 70s years old people. So I think there was also some I would say some social background that helps those to dramatize all the conflicts. I would say to basically, and I also found out that at some points, what is really sad for me, like when I was studying the UN materials and the debate, is that I've seen that at many moments. Um, Nobody believe in other one's sincerity and in other one's patriotism, kind of. So it's like on the American side, they didn't want it to hear what the North Korean would say, because for them it was necessarily like Soviet puppets, and maybe they were, I don't know, but it would have worth to try, because maybe if you hear the person, you understand. It's like the debate happens between great powers and never between Koreans themselves. As there was division, but I think it's yeah, there was many ways that this story could have evolved in a different way, as
So,
far
so,
as I see.
so
Mm.
you find out the division between North Korea and South Korea. It's not the outside external great power not responsible, like Soviet in North Korea, American in South Korea. They are not responsible before the war. You said there is no such thing between external power, Soviet and America. They don't have such kind of thinking, division between North Korea and South Korea. But you said before Korean War, uh, there was Japanese rule. Japanese rule.
Mhm.
They just want to get out of Japanese colonization. Or everybody dreamed to be independent from Japanese colonization. But you said drama of different faction. They have a lot of left, right wings, some
Mhm.
faction among Korean population.
And there was a lot of leaders, like I think about Kim Koo, Kim Kyo-sik, of course Syngman Rhee, even the left was like the North Korean, like the Communist Party, but also some other movement, like I would say less radical in the South. So there was a lot of movement, but what is striking when when those leaders are interviewed, they said, yeah, okay, so they always say, like, yeah, I was pictures as left, but now I feel more like right, because in fact, even left right, I think, was a bit a way to see to see politics through Western eyes. So I think when you just come out of colonization, there is like, uh, eh, yeah, I mean, every country is different, and so yeah, to left, right, I think it was more like a big group of influence. Like some rely on companies, some relied on youth groups, some rely, and so they could figure it out. And at some moment when you read the thing, is that what they say to the United Nations, you can wonder like, do they think, do they say what they really think, or do they say what the other one wants to hear? So, like for instance, Syngman Rhee, who I think was a great politician, at least in the strategy, in the way he understood, he makes everything. He perfectly match. You hear you how to say you hear you read his interview. It could be Truman's speech because he knew perfectly what to say to the Americans. You understand? And it's like at some moment you say, okay, um, yeah, I don't know. And probably there were people in the north who knew exactly how to play the Soviet because they spent 20 years there. My finding, the thing that I will put in the center of my research, and that in my humble opinion, people do not understand so well, is that I think Korea didn't suffer that occupying powers had different plans. I think precisely occupying powers see Korea like okay, we don't know what to do about Korea, so okay, but they didn't have a real plan. When you think about it, like when it's very debated between historians, like why Stalin accepted the 38th parallel, what why there was few negotiations, but maybe there were few negotiations, maybe they accepted directly, maybe they draw the line in a night, because in the post-world war there were so many different questions. And when you think that about the fact that, okay, United States, what meant Korea for them in 1945? They had like burning topics like the um, atomic bombs. Like they were splitting Germany in two. They were afraid to see the influence of communists coming like so close to France, Belgium. Like so, they had many other things. And when you think about Stalin, like it's like when we work about Stalin, of course he was a terrible man. Like there is no debate. But do he really had a wish to dominate this little country? For him, like me, I'm like, okay, I'm European, and as a European, I can tell you that it's rare someone who knows much about Korea. It's rare that someone who gets interest in this. And I think in 1945 it must have been even harder. And why a Georgian guy who can conquer the West Germany would put all his mindset in what's going to happen in Korea? And I think in somehow Korea didn't only suffer from the terrible wish of dominations from great powers, he also Korea also suffered a kind of indifference, not indifference, but like they suffered to never be the priority. So I think the situation was deteriorating, and it's like, okay, it's far away, it's far away. And like even the same with the it's the same with when the United States provoked the election in the South, because Soviets say no, so they cannot make the election of 1948 also in the North. So, okay, it's going to be only in the South. And at the moment, of course, the communists, the Soviet, but communists all over the world, like even in the communist newspaper in France, they all say the same propaganda. They say United States want an elections to dominate definitely Korea, to put a friend there. My opinion, my humble opinion, is that no, they wanted to get rid of Korea because they didn't succeed to do anything there. There is a General Hodge who was not a very high general in the hierarchy, so they put a guy there. The guy is not a brilliant politician, so he got in a mess. He doesn't succeed to put this situation right. So I guess he called the president like, Mr. President, like it's terrible in Korea, and so okay, let's make an election and let them choose now. So they make an election as fast as they can. This situation doesn't happen only in the south. No, there is a south government which is dependent from United States economically, and finally the war breaks out. And at some point, I think when you see the debates of the Cold War, this is my striking idea. When you see the debates in the United Nations, they are always fighting Soviet and United States, and there is on 90% of the topic they are not able to make any agreement. But on Korea, they speak only 2 days. So if you read only this debate, you can say, okay, they hate each other. But in 2 days, they make more concession on the Korean question than they make concession like in the like 2 years of debate on the atomic bomb. So in 2 years, they didn't advance from a step. In 2 days in Korea, United States say, okay, if it's really what you want, okay, we can say that in a year we're gonna take back our troops out of Korea. But right now we will not do it like tomorrow. So okay, we understand your point, Soviet. And at some moment, Soviet people they were so uncompromising, like Soviet people. But it would worse to try say, okay, this is your condition. Okay, let's do like you think. And I think there was such a big majority for the United States in the United Nations at that moment that they say, okay, they're going to vote against, but we're gonna win the vote. The resolution will pass. But Soviet people they would not allow. Okay, the resolution has passed. Do I care about international law? I'm the Soviet Union, and this is at some moment I'm very sad because I feel like that this very short period of debate, like as again I tell you, they debate 3 years about atomic bombs. They debate not even a week about Korea, and like 3 days, 3 days, and after 3 days, and after 3 days, and there is 3 days of debate where like the half of the debate is a Belarusian guy who arrived and say United States is a terrible empire, and after there is the guy of New Zealand, you are a horrific communist, and in this condition they debate and they don't find. But I think they could anyway.
There is
They
no successful uh, debate or no successful voting in United Nations.
Oh, they succeed to vote in the General Assembly. They succeed to vote some resolution proposed by United States, but Soviet Union always said no. So there were a majority because in the Assembly, General Assembly, there is no veto. So the resolution has passed. For instance, like United States said, okay, we're going to organize a resolution, an election in Korea, and Soviets say no, 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 we don't want. They make a vote like maybe 46 against 5 vote against 5 we authorize the election. They arrive there and the
Also,
Soviet
this
Union say
means
no.
General Assembly vote for favor of
Election, yeah.
election, but during Security Council, Soviet
No,
already veto.
yeah,
Security
in
Council,
in Security Council,
it
like,
was not successful in Security
yeah, not
Council.
successful, and at
Only
that time,
General
yeah,
Assembly
yeah,
successful. They
successful, yeah.
successfully in favor of election in
Mhm.
Korea, right? So
Yeah,
only General
yes,
Assembly, Security
yeah.
Council never successful.
Mm. Yeah, only General Assembly, and yeah, and rapidly, like there was already the, I would say, the Cold War atmosphere when the Korean question was raised in the United Nations. So in fact, I think if you look only this debate, you can think, okay, it's very dramatic for them. It's like Korea is the top priority. Like they have very sharpened arguments. They fight very seriously. That's what you might think if you read only this. But if you consider the global context in United Nations and see that on some other topics they can almost call them, tell them dirty words. No, in fact, when Korea arrived, they all have, like, I would say, some ready propaganda to tell to, yeah, you are a very bad guy, you are a horrific communist, yeah, you are imperialist, you want to continue, you're the next after the Japanese, blah blah blah. Okay, but at some moment there is, I really like the fact I would say I'm a bit proud of some countries like France and some other, because at that moment they were not so involved in the Cold War. So at some moment the French or the Indian or the Chinese, he said, okay, okay, guys, you disagree completely, and you say you don't want to hear this, but consider one thing. Soviets, they said all the army should get out, and you say we don't want to hear you because they are terrific communists. But me, as an Indian, I tell you, okay, my country has been occupied so many years. Maybe it's a good principle. Forget that it's the Soviet Union that proposed it. And after same, the French say, okay, okay, you don't like Soviet Union, you don't, so okay, Soviet people, you don't like Americans. We got your point, but we need to elect someone. No, like someone is going so what is your proposition? Forget that it's the Americans who propose it, but what do you think about how to solve this situation? And at some moment, and no, and you know, at the first time it arrived in the debate, and when they finally vote the resolution, they had, in fact, it was the last point on the order. I was very surprised to see that there was so many questions raised before it was the last point. So when they start the debate, they knew that in 4 days they should have taken this decision, because the session will stop in 4 days. So they had only 4 days to, and it's like, no, it's the future of the whole country. It could have worse to spend 2 months of negotiations, but they were always already thinking that we could not make agreements with American, we could not make agreements with Soviet. And so I think, yeah, I think at some moment, if like the Indians, the Chinese, the French, and some other, I would say, more neutral countries would have said, okay, maybe we should propose a resolution by ourselves and to not let the Soviet and Americans in their confrontation, that everyday confrontation, they could have find a situation, a solution, or at least to make people debate. Because the question also, I need to, maybe I'm too optimistic, because the thing is, if one day they would have met the North Korean leaders in United Nations or in anywhere else, would the North Korean leaders play the game of negotiations? And honestly, I cannot answer this question. Maybe not. Maybe since 47, they thought about making a war, and it was the solutions for them. Maybe it's like this. So, in fact, I cannot say they missed because of political debate. Maybe the North Koreans say, okay, we prepared the war and we're going to win it. Maybe that's what their state of mind. But they didn't even try. Is that like they could have tried to make them meet, to force a meeting. And at the moment, Kim Kusik, which was the, like, I would say the center, like, I would say an intellectual, like quite influential intellectual in South Korea, he said, I'm sure that if we meet North Koreans, they will not repeat the Soviet propaganda. And he said, because I trust them, they are my compatriots. And before being communist, before being the allies of the Soviets, they are Koreans. And I believe in their Koreanity to not make so. So when I read that, I said, okay, it could have worth trying. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they were communists thinking, okay, we're not going to destroy them. They are imperialists. They are colonial. They are Japanese. They are all pro-Japanese. Maybe they would. But when I read that, I said, oh, if it would have been my country, I would have loved people to take like months to discuss the problem before taking like early decisions.
United Nations, it was very complicated debate, right? And I mean, General Assembly resolution is not legal, it's not
Mm-hmm.
legal binding. They
Mm-hmm.
can do resolution. It's like moral support only, legally not binding, according to
Mm-hmm.
UN system. So only
Mm-hmm.
Security Council resolution is legally binding
Mm-hmm.
in UN system. That is the problem. So
Mm-hmm.
and in the Security Council, they cannot do any resolution on Korea
Mm-hmm.
issue because Russia never agreed and Norway, uh, Russia opposed any resolution, so it's not successful in UN Security Council. So it means Korean case was never successful in the UN resolution. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean UN could not do anything
Mm-hmm.
legally, legal binding on
Mm-hmm.
Korean cases. That was UN role in Korea Peninsula. Lee Seng-man is more educated, right? Kim Il-sung is not educated,
Mm-hmm.
just young boy, and
Mm-hmm.
he become Red Army soldier. They never able to make any agreement among different factions before Korean War.
No, well, yeah, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. I think like after elections in both country, when they were already Kim Il Sung in North Korea and Syngman Rhee in the south. Some other political groups in the south tried to make a conference with the North. But look, it's like, I don't know. It's like if the opposition of Macron wants to meet, I don't know who. It's like, okay, good to try, but you're not the person in power. You're not the person in charge. So I think at at first, like Kim Il Sung used it because he might think that it's useful to show himself like likely to negotiate with some South Koreans from different groups. So they make a conference, and so at that moment they ask him to swear to never split the Korean peninsula, but it was too late, and it was not between the, I would say, the people that really matters, because two like two political groups had already established a state. They had a very powerful ally. You can speak as much as you want, but the thing is, yeah, because the thing is, I think what I also find out is that because today South Korea is a democracy, maybe the most connected with the world, and on the other side, one of the most closed country in the world. But in 1948, uh, the difference between the two states was not so different. I hope I don't hurt anybody saying that, but the
Right.
situation in South Korea was absolutely terrible, and certainly also in North Korea we have less information, but certainly it was not. So there were people, political figures in jail in both part of the country, and so it looks like, yeah, at a moment like it's a dynamic when it can only get worse. So there was never. I think Sigmund Rhee and Kim Il Sung never met each other. Like even like we do like right now. I think they never had a call together. I think they and I think even if they would have tried, they would have so many people in between. Like the third thing is that even president of the nations, that half of nations, they didn't have all the powers. Like they needed to satisfy the occupying power, the big brother, I would say.
As you said, it's true. In 1950, 1940, Korea was very bad. Both sides, north
Mhm,
side or south side, both
mhm,
economic is so bad and political system is so bad. As you said, they jail anybody if they don't like, they put into jail and they
mhm.
punish all kind of bad things. So, and that's the thing. And you said also Korea are very connected.
It's true that I think in Confucian culture, you learn from a master, and the idea is that you're gonna, I mean, he's doing great, and you try to do as much as you can like him to do great by yourself. And sometime I'm wondering about I would say, the conformity between Confucian values and communism, between Confucian values and modern, I would say, American society, like American way, because more maybe,
Western life, West life.
yeah, Western style life, yeah, Western life, and so maybe communism is even more far than Confucianist ideas, certainly, but even like, I don't know, it's because I see the Koreans like in France today, like what the colleague I meet, if they are students, they are scholars, even a lawyer, I know one, like they are part of West now. They are Western democracy, Western styles, but at so many moments they get somehow shocked by the real West. It's like you like West, the idea of West that you have. Do they consider it as part of West? I don't know. At least we really consider it like a democracy. Like at least people who know a bit, they say no, no. They see like, yeah, kind of a part of. But many people are. I often hear that they consider it a bit like the worst competitive capitalism.
North Korea also you can see as Confucian culture. They like communist style, like their uniform and their head. All army are communist style, everything
Mm,
they are following communist style, communist behavior, communist attitude, and communist way of thinking and saying, and the any military or any economic system, they follow all Soviet
mm,
system. And Kim Il Sung will speak according to Soviet, whatever they say, he will speak the same thing as Soviet did. Soviet never considered them as equal level, or they never accept that
mm,
North Korea is equal as Soviet Union.
mm,
They only consider a kind of follower, a follower, their disciple. But nowadays, Putin consider North Korea because of uh, Ukraine war, I guess they consider a bit like equal. But at
mm,
the time, how did they consider?
mm. I think it's interesting, and on this, I think, yeah, like you say, I think they really saw North Koreans as a tool that might be used in a way or another. But like, and it's the same like when I tell you that the general who was ruling in South Korea, the American general, was not a guy from a very high hierarchy. It was exactly the same in North Korea. They name a guy who knew a bit the Korean language and who have some relative or some I would say like he fights with some North Koreans. So they thought, okay, he's gonna handle the situation. And even when the war started, like the way that Stalin behaved toward North Koreans and Chinese, the way he really showed that he was like, because I think on Stalin, if he has the one quality, it's to be a calculator, like a guy who a perfect chess player. And in fact, he when the war started, he really saw it like they might be win, they might be lose. The
Right,
question is to put the Americans there. So for him, like he said, like no, it's proven because we have some documents that some Chinese historians analyzed a lot, like Chen Jian and Chen Shihua. They made wonderful work, and it's proven that he said, okay, you can start your war against South Korea. Kim Il Sung, you can start your war, okay. But if you lose, don't try to find my help. Like, go. Like, if you think that you can win the war, go. And he even played the Chinese because he said that to the Koreans and say, but go to Simao and tell him before. And all the idea was to involve the Chinese there. Like, and so for him, that's why I think we should never forget that Stalin, he was a guy from Georgia, which is like very very far from Korea. Like he he must have started all his life as a European. He was young during the First World War. The important part for him is Germany, France, United States, and like he even didn't support the Chinese communists in the revolution. So I think he no, I think yeah, I think he like for him he was the master of the communist world, and like there is only one seat in the throne it's how I see this thing. But I think if they would have succeeded to win the war, he would have congratulated them and have good relation. But honestly I think it was just not his business. When it started he said, okay, great, so now Chinese and Americans will fight there. And I'm like yeah, I think it's very cynical, but
right,
if you
right.
find like his logic, he succeed. Like it was in a way brilliant as a chess player. But no, he, yeah.
And And North Korea definitely they will lose the war if
Mm-hmm.
Russia, China is not involved because
Mm-hmm.
Russia not 100% support.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important for them, right? North Korea
Mm-hmm.
is not important for Soviet, and Soviet did not consider anything benefit from North Korea. No economically interest, no anything interest. It's not safe for North Korea. That's
Yeah.
probably North Korea approach China and China involved and in partially Soviet support. Then North Korea survived.
On today's problematic, I don't know very well, but there is like you know at the early stage of the war, North Korea advanced a lot, and so it just the little perimeter of Busan was still defended by
Right.
Americans
Making
and
the
South
war.
Koreans. And
Right.
at that moment, even without like full Soviet involvement, but just a quick and fast help in delivering weapons, they could have ended the war. But
So,
the help was never generous or very efficient. And some historians, of course, it's a little bit speculation. So for me, I don't take it as a truth, but I find their opinion interesting. They said, but did Stalin wanted this war to end? Because this war to end is okay. America, they are defeated. It's not good for the prestige. Like there is, but they can focus on something else now. And there is a possibility that he's saying, okay, maybe it's better to make this war last as long as they can, because as long as they are here, they are not in Germany, they are not like they are spending money, they are me, like they are cutting their budget, they involved in it, and me, I have a little relief. So it's I don't know, like when I see that some historians say that, there is no clear proof to answer like no, like Stalin wanted them to win, maybe he find it better. So yeah, I think so I'm really wondering how, like, because when you think about North Korea, okay, they were master and slave, but there is no Soviet Union anymore, and they're not, I think, copying the Russian style. Like I think they stay in their logic. So I'm really wondering how the, I would say, the follower do when the leader disappeared. Like it's but I don't know. Like honestly, maybe it's a bit strange, but I'm curious about North Korea because there is so many secrets about this country, so many things that we cannot really know. That yeah, it made me curious about the way they see the world, the way they think about the future.
right.
Uh, if they are proud of them, if they think, okay, we offer a good life, if they really believe somehow in communism, like
So
it's really mysterious.
yeah, relation is very tiny on the ideology, communist, right?
Mhm,
And in
mhm,
terms of ethnicity, Soviets consider they are not European. Why I should help them? And
mhm,
economically also, there's no any benefit economic from North
mhm,
Korea and nothing any significant. So Soviet never consider North Korea as equal, and they never. I don't think North Korea leader is equal with Soviet leader. You know, they never consider
mhm,
that. And as you said, if the Soviet has a full commitment, desire during
mhm,
North Korea advance in the war at the time, only Busan is remain. You know,
mhm,
Busan cities remain. The rest are controlled by North Korea. So
mhm,
if you said if even though Russia direct Soviet did not directly involve, even quick delivery of weapon and all the assistance, the North Korea can definitely win Busan, you know.
good.
So
Yeah, they. I think they
that
could.
will
Yeah.
be the end of Korean War. Then they
Yeah.
win it. But you said clearly the Soviet has no desire or not interest.
The whole story of this, I think, of this war is like there is only Koreans to have Korea as a top priority. Like if you rely on the master, even if I think at some moment like United States they really wanted to help, like they didn't have the terrible wish or, but they are Americans. They will care more about the California. Like there is so many other things. Like and yeah, and because MacArthur said that, like the general said, I will defend Korea like I would defend California. So it's sweet to say, but I don't think it can be true. Like I see because at some moment, like France got involved in some wars abroad or some battles abroad. Like if you would have asked in the street here in France, what do you think about the situation? Most of them would say, "Oh no, I don't really know." And if they don't really care, the politicians don't do neither because they need us to win elections. You see, it's like I don't know. So yeah, no, basically, but yeah, I just but sometimes I hope when I see the 2 days world that one day or sooner or later we should came out of this Cold War mentality because oh yeah, I think it damaged so much things all over the world to always suspect that we could not make compromise with the other one. If yeah, you know, when I see like I was thinking about this yesterday, I've noticed that we have like in United States Donald Trump and in Russia, we have Vladimir Putin. It means two leaders from the Cold War generation. They grew up with the Cold War, and uh, and today we are 2025, and the world is still ruling by some leaders who gonna still have this mentality. You know, people say we have the idea we keep our 20 years old ideas for our entire life. And when I see like the election in Korea recently, I see that like the people who were like 20 years old in 2000, that people where people spoke about reunification, they vote a lot for the left and for Lee Jae-myung because I think when they were 20 years old, they thought it could be possible. There was, and we are not existential threat to each other necessarily, I think, you know? So, yeah.
Right, right. So
Okay.
if we see South Korea compared to North Korea, South Korea also promoting democracy. That will be mainly because of Lee Sigmund. He is educated person, you know, and
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
promote democracy and he promote Protestant Christian those and democracy ideology, liberal ideology. That American concern, it's very tiny interest uh, because of they at the time more they they focus on the security, you know. So Japan and Philippines is definitely American security interest. South Korea was later included.
Now South Korea has a lot of capacity by its own. So, of course, the situation started like they were very dependent on many things. But I think now, I think I'm wondering if, like, first, like you speak about security, and it's true, like, at least during the Korean War, without the American help, like, South Korea would have probably be conquered by the North. But today, I think today, if North Korea start the war, they are in shit. Sorry, but I think right now South Korea is more powerful, and it might be the end of if there is a star which breaks out, it might be the end of North Korea more likely than the end of the South. They seek sometimes China as a threat. They say, okay, no, we have different threat, and so. But I'm wondering because it's like in France we can have sometimes the same thing. The yeah we are part of NATO because it's dangerous, but now that there is Trump and that if no matter what you think about the Ukrainian war, like Russia is definitely not going to go further. Like they even have difficulties there. We are the Western world. We are the free world. Like, but for me, it's also kind of a remaining of the Cold War mentality because yes, there is threats, and there were always threats, in history. Like we never be so safe that no war could happen. Like it, it's a bit like some ecological activists who tell me like we're gonna suffer catastrophes. True, certainly. But we always did. Like there was never like sometime in France they are very pessimistic in my generation, say, yeah, we are the doomers, like the doom generation because of climate change, because of all of things. And I said, no, but look, our grandparents they suffered the World War II. They could have died in the camp, on the field. No, we are not the doom generation. We are the how would say the blessed one. So I'm wondering how Koreans will react because I honestly I don't really understand South Koreans politics because or maybe it's just like in France they vote but not much things change. So because when Macron arrived, he was apparently what, according to what people think, less Atlantist, less pro-American. He was more traditional, patriotic, like. And but what I see in Macron's policy is like one step further, one step like he doesn't obey to Americans, and I feel it, and I'm glad about it because some Europeans sometimes they are like they obey too much. It's not good for their the patriotic feeling. So I think he tries, but is Lee Jae-myung going to be more independent than I don't know. So and I don't know, and I think we also sometimes have a lack of empathy with United States because yeah, they are the Americans, okay? They make people dreams. Everybody has seen their movies. Like we, even if you haven't been to New York, you know how it looks like because we've seen it in movies. But on many points, they are suffering. Like they have a life, how to say, the health system is harsh. Like there is poverty. So uh, I don't know. I don't idolize Americans. I think they have a great country, great capacities, but on some other point, I'm happy to be on my old continent when things go slow and there is, I think, more solidarity somehow. So
You
I don't
see,
know. At that time, is it's a bit surprising, but like they see Korea as a victim of Japan, as yeah, like you say, a country with Christianity, with some, and many peoples in Europe were victims of German Nazis, so they could, I would say, quite easily identify. Uh, and it was even like sometime when I see the French documents, they treat it even better, even at that time, better than their own colony. Because France, we had colony in Vietnam, we had, and those people, I think, they were a bit seen like inferiors. But with World War II, I think France learned a bit of modesty. Okay, we have been defeated, and so other people defeated, like yeah, I think the Japanese rule, I think people has not much knowledge about it, but it was the alive of German Nazis. Japan attacked United States on Pearl Harbor. So people who had suffered the Japanese rule was seen like yeah, like a friendly country. And so when you see like all the way Europeans speak from West and from East, also from East Europe. They also said like us, we fight against the Nazis, and so yeah, there was a, I would say, a respect, but a respect with distance. Like I respect you, but I don't know you so much, and am I curious about you? You see this kind of respect. So yeah. So
I,
and how I see it during the Korean War, I don't really know because I think to what I understand from the documents, I have the feeling. For now, it's an impression. Like I cannot be sure, but I have the feeling that Americans they were not so interested, and so sooner or later their plan was to leave Korea. Sooner or later, and in fact, with Syngman they had, I would say, a leader who was more like who was more American than Americans, like more Americanist than Americans themselves. And so he really want them to stay there. So for me, it's a bit strange because they organize an election thinking right now they're going to decide for their own destiny. And the guy who won the election say to Americans, "No, no, we need you. Stay, please, please." Like because he's a brilliant calculator. I think he was a very smart politician in this game. But was he a guy with a hope for the people, with an optimistic vision of Korea? Like they don't speak English, they are here, they are poor, they don't know how to read. So they need to be led by someone with a strong hand, and if they don't understand, it's because they're you see, that's how I see Sigmund Rhee. And at some moment, when if you compare what Hodge, the American general, was saying about Koreans and what Sigmund Rhee, a Korean, was saying about his people, you can wonder who was the most, I don't know, who was the
Because
most
Sigmund
aggressive.
is very faithful, and American won't be that much defense
Yeah.
South Korea. American won't defend, and then South Korea will become definitely North Korea control the whole peninsula because only Busan is remain. And I think many UN troops, including many European troops, French and many other countries also involved peacekeeping.
So on Sigmund Rhee, of course, yeah, he was a
Because
man of faith.
missionary they came long time ago here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even European missionary went there in Korea, right? And Sigmund Lee is the key person convinced Western country, American, to defend South Korea, even though American excluded South Korea from security line. So, but he convinced then American and Western country come back again to defend South Korea. Otherwise, North Korea already controlled the whole country. Communist North Korea control, and only Busan is remain. That, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
once Soviet supply quickly, even that North Korea can win easily.
Mm-hmm.
Busan, but Busan was not able to control by North Korea, and then American troop and Western they repel North Korea at the middle, and then they make the line. So that is South Korea and North Korea divided. If that time North Korea control the whole country, I mean Korea will be same like current North Korea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There will be no development,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
growth, and
Mm-hmm.
also there will be no Christianity because North Korea
Mm-hmm.
they they
They
don't
would
like
not allow
Christian,
it. Yeah.
right? They don't like
Mm.
Christianity. So people to people make the strong connection and relationship between uh, American and South Korea Christianity, but North Korea and Soviet was not based on people to people. That's why the Soviet church will never influence North Korea.